This month's exhibit is an exhibit from a mini group that's been in existence for over 20 years. And we were all wannabe art quilters, really experimenting. Most of us had done traditional work for a long time, and we really wanted to do original work. And there's been members drop out and new members join, um, but it's been a pretty cohesive group. And we work hard at um, exploring abstract work. So I'll start here with uh, On the Surface, which was done by Martha Sanders. And she has used a lot of different dyed, stamped, painted, printed um, fabrics to create this collage. And some of it's raw edge and some of it is seamed. Um, and what stands out with me is also the variety of the quilting shapes and some of the quieter um, blocks. I think that really adds, especially towards that top right in that kind of rusty colored piece where the lines are coming down into the quilt. It really draws you right in and makes you want to look around. The name of our exhibit is Melange, which means a variety of things. So, you know, this group just does a lot of different styles of quilting. So you're going to see lots of different pieces. Our common color was black. And in Martha's, the black is very quiet. In this next piece by Mary Stewig, called Hot and Spicy, the black is very dominant and it's a very high contrast piece. I mean, it does feel hot and spicy. And I think Mary is especially good with finding all the printed fabrics to uh, get her point across in her composition. I mean, you see a few quieter ones, but most of them are pretty active. And you'll see where she's used reds in places to kind of move the eye around and different forms of red, not just fire engine red. And this is very typical, I would say, of Mary's style that she has developed. The next piece is by Donna Rice and is Papillon. And she used a mirror image technique that she learned from Irene Roderick. And she created the blocks from 1/2 inch square triangles. Um, and she felt it was successful in the abstract image that she wanted to achieve. Um, and I'm not exactly sure what her title means, but I think it's probably some type of bug, insect, you know, because you feel the energy of something that might be flying. I especially like the background and the quiet values from the colors that happen to be in the image. I think that was very successful. And also the use of gray along with her black, which is kind of pushing black lighter. So I think that's was really effective too. And this next piece is called Magic, and it's by Betty Gentke. And she just does magical things with eco dyeing. And you can see all these leaf studies that she's done. The one on the left um, is on a cotton twill. Um, and then when you see the darker one on the right, that is on wool. And taking these different textile weights and putting them together in one piece, I think she was really successful with it. And the black is used to really showcase, almost make this look pictorial with each of the images. And I think the black outlines were really effective. And then her narrow, narrow quilting, which is just beautiful. Now, this next piece is by Judy Beaver, and she calls it the cocktail hour. It marks a special time in which close friends gather together, enjoy libations, talk story, enjoy fellowship. The fabrics in the piece were all hand printed by Judy, and she is masterful at the hand printing. But you will see there's actually 5 different fabrics. Those 3 imagery pieces of the friends getting together a cocktail hour are each separate pieces, and then there's 2 different pieces in the background. One is pretty busy with lots of X's and things, and the other is a little bit quieter. And Judy uses black in her work a lot. And she was the one that suggested we use black this year. And at first it kind of freaked me out because I thought, well, how am I going to use it? So you'll see in the next piece what I did. I want to read our artist statement here. Melange is a mood mixture of incongruous elements, the act of mixing, or a medley of a variety of elements. These fiber artists explored new techniques, revisited learning processes, built their art on these results. So what's fun about our group is that we're all different. We all have things that we kind of hone in on. So this next piece is mine, and this is, the structure of it isn't really new to me, but I used 2 pieces of ice-dyed fabric that I dyed last winter and was able to get this variety of textiles. One piece was more on the blue side and one was more on the violet side. And I used orange as my accent because I had those nice orange areas in the dyed fabric that was violet. And I just like that kind of contrast. And what I did was sketched out a structure, and then for using black, I put black between everything, but it was a hand-dyed piece of black. So there are places where a little gray seeps in where the dye wasn't as intense. I had a lot of fun with this, and my challenge was to do a diptych, which is 2 quilts that are of the same thing hung together. And I had never done anything like that. And so I kind of followed, I guess my theme, I worked on the right-hand side first, and I pinned things up on the wall but didn't sew any seams, and then played off the right-hand piece to create the left-hand piece because I wanted the eye to be able to go back and forth in this piece. And I'd honestly say I really had fun doing this, and it's pretty unusual for me to only use, 3 or 4 fabrics. Usually I'm using 15 or 20. And it's called petrified because it reminded me of petrified wood. And the next piece is done by Jan Tetzloff. And if you know Jan, she really likes to do hand quilting. And she doesn't do really large pieces, usually not any larger than 42 or 45. This one happens to be 39 by 30. And she used a variety of blacks, which is very elegant to me. And you see the kind of softer ones more toward the center. And then there's contrast with the really deep, dark ones. And, if you think about those white strips, I can see them just shattered all on the floor. I think this was a really good title for this piece. And there's a little bit of her hand stitching in white that kind of draws the eye around that you can see on the right-hand side. And I think that was really effective too. And the next piece is called Icebreaker. And excuse me, it was done by June Yeager. And she has a pond out in her backyard. And there's a little waterfall. And when it froze last year, she took photos of it. And when she went to do this piece, and I saw her pull out this palette, I thought it was just brilliant, pulling in all of those blues. And I feel like the blues really worked well with the black and whites. And she does a technique where everything is fused in place. She makes a very detailed pattern and cuts out all of the pieces and fuses them in place. And then she does a huge amount of machine quilting. And most of it is mimicking the shape. And she stitches around the shape and then keeps coming inside more and more and more until the whole thing is covered in stitching. But I think using that batik fabric that has the kind of white circle with the radiating lines on the blue, where it's strategically placed, was really a great idea for moving the eye around too. This next piece is done by Helen Brisson, and it's called Charlotte's Branch. And Helen really likes to work with nature whenever she can, and she likes to work with kind of odd-shaped pieces, her quilts. And I wasn't surprised when this is what she came up with for the exhibit. And you can see the weaving she's done with pieces of quilted fabric as well as with some thread between the branches. And so it's a very dimensional piece. And it's set out from 3 panels. And these happen to be leftover pieces from things that she had made. And so she just pulled them together. And I really like the circles that you see that are appliqued on, as well as when she quilted, she left open kind of circular-like shapes, which I think work beautifully. Now this last piece is by Maran Shimoda, and it's called Slow Dance. And this so talks about and expresses how Marian loves to work. She likes to hand piece, hand quilt, hand stitch, and you see all of the above up there. And her use of color in this piece, I think, is really dynamic, you know, with the pinks and oranges and that funky kind of tannish green, you know, with the black and white. And I really like the way the shapes are so abstract and they don't line up exactly. The blocks are a little tilted here and there, which creates very interesting movement. But the hand stitching that she did at the very end, especially the stitching done in white, I think was really valuable to the piece and having you want to look around and see what else you can see. So this is our exhibit, and Helen's piece is $300. Let me look and see if anybody else is for sales. June's Icebreaker is $2,500, and let's see. And that's it. So just 2 pieces that are for sale. So if you get a chance and can come in and see the work and look at it close up, there's just so many tips and ideas and things that you may take away for your own work, or you can just admire. And we will have an opening on Friday, and you can meet the artists, which is always a lot of fun. Thank you.